Hello everybody and welcome back to the Lost Planeswalker. You are here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker, and today we're doing a Coram the Undertaker commander deck. This is a co-commander from the Graveyard deck from Modern Horizons 3, and I wanted to call out this commander because I think he does some very interesting things that we can take advantage of. So Coram the Undertaker, 1 black, red, and a green legendary creature human warrior. With Coram the Undertaker gets +X/+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards. Then, whenever Coram attacks, each player mills a card. During each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that were put there from their libraries this turn. Coram here works by taking advantage of the thing that everybody wants to in these colors, which is the graveyard. Whether by powering him up or getting to cast stuff from anybody's graveyard, there's a lot of really cool ways we can take advantage of that. So this deck is going to be split up into a couple categories. We're going to look at some milling effects and rad counters. We're going to be looking at some value hits that we either want to put in the graveyard or cast when it gets in there. And then lastly, some good stuff to help power up our commander and power up our board. So starting right out, let's look at those great mill and rad creatures and cards by first looking at some great mill effects. So starting out, we have Cemetery Tampering, Golgari Thug, and Stinkweed Imp. Cemetery Tampering is 2 and a black enchantment with Hideaway 5, meaning we look at the top 5 cards of our library, put 1 underneath, and when we hit the requirement, we can cast it for free. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. Then if there are 20 or more cards in your graveyard, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Seems like a pretty good effect. It's going to help fill up our bin at the beginning of each of our upkeeps, so I really like it. Golgari Thug and Stinkweed Imp are both dredge cards from Ravnica. They haven't really printed any new dredge cards other than the commander that came out from this set that I did a video on already. But Golgari Thug is 1 and a black creature human warrior with when this dies, put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library, and this is dredge 4, meaning that instead of drawing a card for the turn, or whenever we have a draw trigger, we can replace it with a dredge trigger, meaning we mill 4 cards and then put this card back into our hand. Maybe we want to keep putting things on top of our library, or just a great way to mill more cards. Keep replaying it, it's very cheap, so it's very good. Stinkweed Imp is 2 and a black creature imp with flying. Whenever this deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. So it has pseudo death touch. It's a great effect, and this has Dredge 5, so it's even better. It does cost more mana, but it has flying, so it's great flying protection. It'll kill whatever it deals damage to, and then we can just dredge it back to our hand. So next up, we want to look at some of those cards we purposely want to put in the bin because we're going to get some good effects with them. We have Anger, Brawn, and Grist, Voracious Larva, that transforms into Grist, the Plague Swarm. So Anger and Brawn here are both similar effects. They both cost 3 and either a red or a green. They each give some keyword like haste or trample, and then as long as they're in our graveyard and we control a mountain for Anger and a forest for Brawn, they give haste and trample to all of our creatures. Very powerful effect here. These were both in the base deck, and I think that was a very smart call. And I think Brawn is one of those cards you don't see too often, but is very, very powerful. So definitely worthwhile including it in this deck for sure. But then we have Grist, Voracious Larva, which is a new flip planeswalker from Modern Horizons 3. For a single green, we get a legendary creature insect with death touch. Whenever Grist, Voracious Larva, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay a single green. If you do, exile Grist, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. And it transforms into Grist, the Plague Swarm, a legendary planeswalker Grist that says for +1, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill 2 cards, and put a death touch counter on that token if a black card was milled this way. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. And -6, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect. Grist is doing everything we want right here. We're milling cards, we get to destroy pieces that are causing us issues, and then if we can tick down -6 there, we get to create a giant board of insects that have all the abilities of all the creatures in our graveyard that we got to mill into it. So Grist, very, very cool. This is going to be a very fun card. Right now it's, right around $10, $15, so keep an eye out for that if that's something you really want. I did call this mill and rad counters, so let's look at some cards that place rad counters. We have Bloatfly Swarm, Pharaoh Ghoul, and Tato Farmer. Bloatfly Swarm is 3 and a black creature insect mutant with flying. When it enters, put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to Bloatfly Swarm, while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage, and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it, and give each player a rad counter for each +1/+1 counter removed this way. This is one of the strongest rad counter cards in my opinion. Being able to put that many rad counters on each opponent, you being able to proliferate this up or put a bunch more counters on and just continually do that makes this so incredibly strong. Similarly, Feral Ghoul here is 2 and a black, creature, zombie, mutant with menace, and whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then when it dies, each opponent gets a number of rad counters equal to its power. Great way to make our opponents lose a ton of life from our creatures dying. Then Tato Farmer, 2 and a green, creature, zombie, mutant, peasant. With Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, you may get 2 rad counters, so we can self-mill ourselves. Then tap, put target land card in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control. Notably here, a really strong ability of our commanders is we can cast stuff that was milled this turn in any graveyard, but he doesn't make it so we can cast it with any mana, unlike a lot of Dimir spells. So this is going to help us get lands out of our opponent's graveyards to do so. So next up in this big old category about mill and rad counters, I want to talk about tutoring things into our graveyard, because basically if we can put something specifically into our graveyard, we can then cast it from our graveyard for that turn. So there's a lot of really great things that do that. It just says put from our libraries, so any way it gets in is good. So we have Buried Alive, Entomb, and Gravebreaker Llama. Buried Alive is 2 and a black sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle. Similarly, Entomb is a single black instant that says search your library for a card, put that card into the graveyard, then shuffle. Gravebreaker Llama, 4 and a black enchantment creature, snake, Llama, creature, lifelink. When Gravebreaker Llama enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your library, and spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. In addition, this does discount a bunch of spells coming from a graveyard, so I like it even better. And final category in this mill and rad counters, we have big damage, whether it's to our opponents or maybe in this case ourselves, but we'll get into that. We have Dreadhound, Lord of the Forsaken, and Sir Conrad the Grim. Dreadhound is 4 black creature demon dog that says when it enters, mill 4 cards. Then whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from a library, each opponent loses 1 life. Very devastating there. We have Lord of the Forsaken, 4 black creature demon with flying and trample. Black, sack another creature, target player mills 3 cards, then pay 1 life, add a colorless, spend this mana only to cast spells from graveyards, giving us some great value in order to cast some of those bigger things from our graveyard. And then Sir Conrad the Grim, 3 black ledger creature human knight with whenever another creature dies, or a creature is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. You could also pay 1 and a black to make each player mill a card. Sir Conrad is one of the most powerful effects, and yeah, he actually got reprinted a couple times recently, so his price is way down. So good time to pick up a copy of him. But some of those other mill and rad counters cards are Aftermath Analyst, Codex Shredder, Dread Summons, Ghoul Caller's Bell, Glowing One, Grisk the Hunger Tide, Harold and Bob First Numers, Milkin, Mind Rack Harpy, Meyer Triton, Nuclear Fallout, Nyx Weaver, Screeching Scorch Beast, Skull Prophet, Smuggler Surprise, Stitcher Supplier, Strong, the Brutish Thespian, World Shaper are just a few of the cards I decided to put in this deck. Now next up, I said we're going to have some other good value hits or things to get into your bin, but I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. If you would consider subscribing to my channel, that would mean the world to me and really help me out. I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of July or sooner, and if you would help me do that, it would be amazing. So some of my favorite good value hits that I think could be very fun to get are Froghemoth, Honest Rustin, and Wildfire Devils. So Froghemoth is 3 green creature frog horror with trample and haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to that many target cards from their graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature exiled this way, and you gain 1 life for each non-creature card exiled this way. Froghemoth is just a great way to help clear out some of those bins if somebody is playing a graveyard deck and you want to remove certain cards from it. Honest Rustin is 1 black-green ledger creature human warlock with when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from a graveyard to your hand, and creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whether that's from our hand or from our graveyard, this is going to be very powerful. And then Wildfire Devils is 3 and a red creature devil with when Wildfire Devils enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a player at random. That player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard, copy that card. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Now, we don't know if we're going to be dumping something big or small, but we can then just cast it for free, so getting some good value there. And the second category I want to talk about, I'm calling new Reanimator, or some different Reanimator type effects that I think can be really fun to play from the last 2 sets. So we have Illicit Masquerade and Savvy Trader, and then finally Tiny Bones the Pickpocket. Illicit Masquerade is 3 and a black enchantment with flash. When this enters the battlefield, put an imposter counter on each creature you control. Then whenever a creature you control with an imposter counter and it dies, exile it. Return up to 1 other target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a great way to get anything free from our bin as long as it died. Whether this is on tokens or creatures with death triggers, I think this could be a really cool card in a lot of decks, but I think this is super fun here when we're filling up our bin especially. Savvy Trader, same mana cost, but green this time, 3 and a green. Creature Human Citizen, that says when it enters the battlefield, exile target permanent card from your graveyard. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 1 less to cast. So it discounts some things. In addition, we get to get something from our bin. And then Tiny Bones the Pickpocket, single black, legendary creature, skeleton rogue with death touch. Whenever Tiny Bones the Pickpocket deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard. The mana of any type can be spent to cast this spell. Very cool effect. We get 1 trigger with our commander. We get a second trigger here as long as we can get through, but I don't know if anybody's blocking a 1/1 with death touch. So some of those other value hits we have is Animate Dead, Assassin's Trophy, Bitterthorn, Nissa's Animus, Bloodchief Ascension, Cemetery Prowler, Insidious Roots, Necromancy, Reanimate, Sword of the Animist, and Whisper Steel Dagger. So finally, we have some good stuff cards that I think could help round out your deck, but the cards I want to bring up specifically are big cards because our commander cares about its power based upon the largest creature's power in a bin. So the 3 cards I want to show off there are Lord of Extinction, Mal'Ganis, and Yargle and Multani. So Lord of Extinction is 3 black and a green creature elemental with Lord of Extinction's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. If we can get our deck going, there is no doubt this can be an incredibly large creature, making our commander incredibly large as well. Mal'Ganis is 3 red creature elemental spirit that I didn't realize was a thing even, but its power and toughness are equal to half the number of the highest life total among your opponents rounded up. And then damage that would be dealt Mal'Ganis can't be prevented. So if we get this on the board, this is a pretty cool card. In addition, it's just going to get big. So if we got somebody who's got a lot of life, we can end up dealing a ton of damage to them. And then Yargle and Multani, 3 black, green. It's an 18/6 legendary creature, frog, spirit, elemental. Not much more to say. Very big creature, very fun card to play. So the rest of those good stuff cards we have here is Abrupt Decay, Arcane Signet, Beast Within, Chaos Warp, Chromatic Lantern, Commander Sphere, Cultivate, Faithless Looting, Farseek, Velwar Stone, Kodama's Reach, Rampant Growth, and Soul Ring. I did add some cards into the land base here that let you tap for lands, of different colors or lands based on your opponent's stuff. But the rest of it is just basics. So if you really want to build out this land base, go ahead. But I just spent a little bit of time doing so. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, watching this video. And comment down below on what are some other great cards to put in this deck. Coram is a really neat card. I think you could definitely have some additional cards that make his power bigger, but this is what I found and thought would be fun to put in the deck. In addition, if you would please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. So thank you. And today's Scryfall card of the day is Bloodwraith Invoker. The brood lineages unfold across the world, each patterned after one of 3 progenitors, each a study in mindless consumption. The Invoker's Tale. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.